right thing, or at least stay out of trouble, and not get pulled over and not have to face these warrants in California.
You just don't want the consequences.
Yeah, and just figure out a way to get high without getting in trouble, and then you get introduced to county jail in Arizona and a slot tray, and you're in and out of county jail, and you get out, you go back, you get out, you go back. And then ultimately,
I mean, I got married, I had a kid.
Oh yeah,
all that stuff. Like, if I get married, I'm gonna be okay. If I, because I'm having this kid, this is gonna make it okay. Or if I work this job instead of that job, it's gonna be okay. And eventually I started doing speed again.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And eventually, like drinking and weed were great, and I just was at work, and one of the guys at work was like, "Here, you want a line?" And I go home and I'm doing the laundry and I'm cleaning the dishes, and my wife had been bitching at me. Yeah, she'd been bitching at me about not helping out at the house, and she was like, "I like you better on speed than weed," and that light bulb clicks, and I was like, "Okay, that's a free ride."
Yeah.
Here we go, and then it was all bad after that. Like, it was all bad after that. I couldn't stop getting high, and then she's bitching at me about getting high, so I get her high.
Yeah.
And then now we're fighting over dope, we're fighting over this, we're having fist fight, and I my first ex-wife fought like a man, so.
Why do you hide dope in me?
No, I mean, I would do all my.
I know.
No, I'd do all my dope, and I would just go in her purse and take hers, and she would be pissed
I
off.
need yours and mine.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm not real proud of, have some domestic violence in my past, from 20 years ago. These things that happen, I go to county jail a few times, dude, and I get out of county jail, and I'm on IPS, and when my IPS officer seen me.
In prison soon?
Yeah, my IPS officer seen me. I'm in the hole. I did 10 months in the hole on a year sentence, and because
the Durango hole?
No, at Towers.
Oh,
or no, I was at Towers over there, and this is like 2001, and. He comes and sees me. I get slapped with divorce papers one day, and then the next day my PO comes and sees me and says, you got this intense probation. I think you could do this. And I was like, hey, I want you to do this, and I want you to go to this halfway house. And I was like, I'm not doing any of that. I was like, you should just send me to prison right now. He was like, it's too late for that. You already took the probation. And I was like,
well, so you're notifying me.
Yeah.
So this is a notification.
Yeah.
On IPS.
Yes. And I get out and I go to TLC.
Oh, TLC.
Yeah, and I'm high.
No shout out.
No. I mean, dude, there were some people that were getting sober there, and I know some people that did some good things at TLC. I can't say that because I know some people that stayed sober.
That is true.
Stayed sober from there,
Still
dude. Like,
shouting out.
Whatever you think about it, like, you could get sober in the dope house if you are willing to do the things to be sober. I just was never willing to do the things to be sober. That's why I never got sober, right? There's a process to this. And there's a process to this. And, all that, having kicked out, new girlfriend, all the whole deal, dude. Running the streets with her, dude. Finally, of all places, they go into they raid my mom's house looking for me on probation violation. I'm not there. I'm like, oh, and her mom lives by my mom. And I'm like, I gotta leave. Your mom probably told him where we live at. I go down the street to my dope dealer's house, and I'm sitting in her house. They come to serve her a warrant for probation violation. And he stops me and pulls my wanted poster out of his pocket. Because I gave him a fake name and everything. He was like, do we have to keep going through this, Scott Shockley? And I was like, no.
Yeah, we're good. I mean, you got me.
Yeah, and I went to prison in Arizona, and doing time in Arizona, dude, it was crazy because there's more white people than I've seen in my whole life. Right? It's like a whole nother world. Like in county jail, in the tents, I'm sharpening up a toothbrush on the concrete, and some dude walks in and he's like, what are you doing that for? And I said, because I'm white. Because the last place I was at was LA County Jail, and I go to the chow hall and I see more white people than I've seen in my whole life in one place. And I'm like, I don't need this. You go to prison and there's a dude that did time with my dad in prison there, and he pulls me under, I know your dad from the neighborhood, and he's like, you're my youngster, here, hold this tattoo gun, here's some food, here's some tobacco, here's everything you need, you know what I'm saying? You're on this workout program because you're my kid, you know what I'm saying? And all the while I'm writing my girl, like, I'm getting out soon, I don't tell her, you know, and here I'm supposed to go back to TLC because I got nowhere to parole to, and I don't even make it there. I get out, dude, I was in prison for a hot minute. I go to the house, dude, all I'm doing is going to get my clothes, right?
That's it.
That's
I
it.
have to get my clothes.
My brother's like, and it's over there in the crack spot, dude, and my brother's like, it's right here somewhere. I see my brother-in-law cartoon who's doing 40 years in California right now. He's living there, dude, and I knock on the window, you know, I knock on the door and the radio's loud, and I don't hear anybody, so I go to the back window in the alley and I knock on the window, dude, and she opens the blinds like this and it looked like a ghost hit her. And she hurries up and goes and opens the door, and there's some dude sitting on the couch.
Oh.
And there's Sancho. Yeah, Sancho's right there. I'm not mad though, because when I went away, I told her, I was like, hey, I know. I tried to break it off with her, like, I can't do time with you. Like, that just will stress me out, you know what I'm saying? And my plan was, I'm going to have the white picket fence, I'm going to get a job. Here we go, you know, I'm a felon now, I'm tired of getting high, I'm tired of living this way, dude, and, you know, we go in the shower, do what we do, she gets out before me, and, I walk in the bedroom, dude, and she's got the pipe in her mouth, and I'm pissed off. And I slap the pipe out of her mouth. And I grab the bag from her, and I start shaking my head, and she's like, what's wrong? And I said, you need to go back, you need to get dressed and go to the store and get another pipe. Yeah. I go in there, break a light bulb, dude, start getting high, dude. 42 days later, I'm caught in Ajo with a van full of illegals on my way back to prison.
Shout out. Oh,
shout out, yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we used
to
pass through there to go to
dude,
Rocky
I was out 42, 43 days and slept 3 nights. Yeah, lost 20 pounds. I remember I hit Florence West over there.
That's where I got released from.
Yeah, Florence West over there.
Right?
Yeah.
The violator, they had a fence.
Yeah, and I go over there and I take off my shirt, and they were like, get this white boy some soups and some peanut butter quick. He was on a good one.
Step on the scale.
You know, and yeah, and I do my little violation, and you know, I end up at Cheyenne, and you know, I'm catching tickets, and I hit the 3 yard, and it's not so bad, dude, and I meet another guy that I'm sponsoring now. This is 20 years later. This dude's running the yard, right? And and I remember I seen this dude through the fence, and I was like, hey, I know you, and I was talking to my other homeboy that was over there, and that dude had went to protective custody when we were in the county in the hole, because the celly was doing whatever, and that dude runs to the yard office, so I'm out there doing pull-ups with the guys, and they were like, hey, Hefe wants to talk to you. And I was like, who's Hefe?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And they were like, he's over there with the rake, and I walk up, and they were like, you're Scotty? And I was like, yeah. They were like, what happened to Joey? And I was like, Joey? And he was like, yeah, that dude seen you, and he hit the yard office and checked in. And I was like, well, I thought he was a piece of shit, but I'm not going to just put it out there. I don't got paperwork on this dude or nothing, and I would have just handled it myself rather than say something. He goes, well, you don't got to handle it now. He is a piece of shit. You know, and so 20 years later, you know, I mean, well, you know, like 10 years later, I run into this dude, you know, all the time, but 20 years later, I'm sponsoring that same dude that was like running the yard in prison.
Awesome is that?
You know, and yeah, and he's one of my good friends, and the reason why he asked me is he goes, yeah, I'm full of shit, dude, and I know you'll call me on my bullshit, and you're not scared of me.
Because I need that.
You know, and yeah, I mean, dude, it's just the same thing, dude. I do the violation, I get out, dude, I do all this stuff, dude, you know, selling stolen cars, running around with a pistol, selling crack, getting high, dude, you know, running hookers, whatever I can do to get money.
All that.
You know, trying to make $1 million in a month.
Yeah.
And,
master plan.
Been there.
Yeah.
you know, get raided for selling crack cocaine, get released because they didn't file charges yet. You know, you know, I get this proposition like, hey, go live down in Mexico for a little while, hide out, shit's hot. You know, here. But we got this, hey, we got this stolen Tahoe out here. A guy needs you to take it down to Nogales.
Real quick trip.
Yeah, it's 2.5 hours, dude. You get like $1,500. My people are over there. They're gonna take you down, and you're gonna go sit on the weed farm. Sit on the weed farm for a little while. Let the heat die down, dude, and you know, and I'm like a $155. Like I walk around at 220 right now, and I'm a $155 since I was 14 years old, and this fucking customs guy dude was like, hey, you got your ID? And I go to my backpack to pull it out, and he reaches in, the suitcase key falls on the ground, it looks like a Chevy key, puts a pistol to my head, dude, and pulls me out the car, dude, and bust me, dude. And in Dallas, they're not giving out no kind of time down there because dudes are getting busted with like 50 pounds at the border. This and this, dude. You just got this stolen car. They're trying to give me probation, and I was like, and I should have took it. You're like being a dumb. I'm a dummy, right? I'm like, I'd rather go to prison. It's only a year. You drop this down to a class 6 theft. Like, I'm just going to go, because you let me out on IPS, I'm going to have more charges. I'm going to do more time.
I'll catch another one.
It's all,
sure.
It's all bad. And so they take me to prison, dude. I refuse the probation and I get the year. And because my points keep going up and I can't stay out, dude. Now I'm on 4-yard.
Oh, real prison.
And I remember I'm in Buckeye, Arizona at Buckley in 04 when it was still good. And I look over and this dude's leaking out his head. He just got his head cracked at rec. And the other dude, and we're talking to him, and he's going to get locked down for the rest of his life, probably, because they 5-5'd him. And he was like, this is a man's yard. If you don't walk around with your chest out and your head up, dude, you're going to get ran off from here. And I'm a 24 years old kid, and I don't have my medicine to make me feel strong and powerful. I don't have a pistol, dude. I just got, and I'm like 160 pounds, and I'm in there with all these dudes, and it's a bunch of adults with the mentality of children running around with sharp objects. That's how I can describe it.
That is a great way to describe it.
High medium, yes. Like, you see a guy get stabbed by 5 Mexicans on the rec field in front of you, and the guy's fighting the whole time he's getting stabbed until he gets out of the fence and dies. You're like, this is a man's yard. Like, you're doing push-ups with Chappie the axe murderer, and it's just okay. And I remember they were like, my cellie was like, hey, this table's for this table's for that, and this is where I sit. It's called the on-call table. And I was like, well, I ain't got no kind of time. I'm not trying to be on call. And I remember going to chow, and I'm trying to sit by like the tables where the lames sit, and dude that's running my house, he was like, you want to go sit there with your cellie? And I already know the rundown. And I was like, yeah. And he goes, you know what that table's for? And I said, yeah. And I just sign up. Like, it's my turn. Everything's my turn. Like, this dude needs beat up. It's my turn. And, I get page 2 for the, getting rated for the crack. They ran it like a first-time felony. I get a year county, 7 years probation. And that starts out as IPS, and when I'm going to do that county sentence, they grab me and get me on a trafficking stolen property.
Hold up, you got one more.
You got a trespassing charge, and I was like, how did I get a trespassing charge? Like, I don't know ever being arrested for trespassing, and they were like, it's trafficking stolen property, it's a conspiracy, it's been going on for a year, they got pictures of you selling this car to these undercover cops, and so we're going to hit you with a prior, and we're not going to stipulate time on this plea. It's anywhere from 4.5 to 12.5, and you're right there in the middle of at 6.5 is what your presumptive is. And I was like, let's go, dude. I'd rather be in prison than county jail.
That's a fact.
I could get settled, and I walked into court fully expecting to get 6.5, and I got 5. And I got 5, and I'm telling my attorney, okay, tell them to revoke the probation, and they were going to stack me if I did that, and run me bow-legged, which is you're doing 9.5 on a 10-year sentence. And I was like, okay, we'll try probation.
Yeah, I like probation.
Sounds good. My mentality is, I had this love, and at Buckley, Arizona, in Buckeye, Arizona, or whatever, Buckeye Prison, and wherever it's at, and Lewis, and I remember, we were locked down, and they finally called church, right? And my cellie, he jumps up, and he's like, I'm going to church. And I was like, what do you mean you're going to church? Yeah, like we're tattooing and stuff. He gets out just to get out. Yeah, because it's a way to get out, right? And he comes back from church, and he comes with a gram of heroin.
You're like, church?
And then, and I never done heroin, but, I was like, I could try this, like that's what I always thought. And then he was like, I'm going to get you high before you leave. And I was like, what do you got, some speed or some weed? He's like, I got some heroin. And before I could say, no, I don't do heroin, I was like, okay. And so he mixes his up, and he mixes mine up.
Chapstick cap or a
yeah, but he had a harpoon, so he wasn't playing. Yeah,
you gotta get the thing.
Yeah.
I'm familiar.
And so, so he gets high, dude, and he shoots up, dude, and he's on the toilet, like on all fours at the toilet, throwing up. And he looks at me and he tells me it's good. And I was like, that shit ain't good.
You got the good shit.
Yeah, I was like, that shit ain't good. It like instantly made him puke, but I did it anyways.
Yeah.
You know, and I got high off heroin. And, you know, when I copped that other charge, they ended up sending me up to Winslow, Arizona, because I still stayed on. Yeah. I hit Kaibab in 05, and and it was just getting high and beating people up. Like I'm doing.
It's another man's yard.
Oh yeah, I'm doing life on the installment program, and this is okay. Like this is okay. Mom crying on the phone, dude. Watching my daughter grow up in pictures. Every time I'm not sober, dude, I'm trying to figure out how I can tie this sheet to this van so I could jump off it and die.
Yeah.
You know, whatever. You know, I'm in the mix, dude. I do some violent shit, dude, and I get love because of it because I want to be accepted. Right, and long story short, I finally make it down to minimum in 2009, and you know, in 2008, and then they were like, you know, where are you gonna go when you get out, dude? And mom's not gonna have me there. Grandparents don't want me to know where they live. Brother doesn't want me to have the address, and I don't know where I'm going. And they hand me this list of half houses.
DOC approved.
And they were like, you know, pick one, and I was like, men's rehab, Christian rehab, blah, blah, blah. I start crossing stuff off, and then it says solutions, co-ed, and I was like, perfect, because I haven't seen a woman that didn't look like a man in years. And you know, that long bus ride, you know, get home, you know, get checked into the solutions, and they tell me to do some crazy shit, like I got to get a home group and a service commitment, I got to get a sponsor. You know, and then I got this roommate, right, and he's just like me, dude. He shot dope like I shot dope. He did time like I got time, but he's just from the other side of the fucking world. He's from Boston, you know. And
shout out Keith.
Yeah. That dude taught me more about being free and sober than most people in my life, you know. And and I was at a meeting, and it was the last day I needed a sponsor. And they were like, anybody in here need a sponsor? And I raised my hand, and this young dude comes up to me, and he's like 23 or 24, I'm 31, I'm slung down, dude, you know, I've seen a bunch of shit, dude, I've seen people getting stabbed multiple times, dude, people get socked and get their neck broke, and this kid, I could tell he's scared of me, and he sits down and tries to do some step work with me, and I'm really not feeling it, like, I'd rather, you know, work out. I'd rather work out, dude, and and then dude speaks at a meeting talking about how he's scared of his sponsee, and I was like, perfect, you know, I'm not calling him. I'm not doing nothing, you know, like.
He's gonna sign my card.
No, he don't.
Better sign my
card. It was just turning it in without being signed, and they would call him, and he would call me, and he'd be like, hey, Solutions is calling me, I don't know what to say. I was like, just don't answer the phone. You know, and shout out to the people that ran that place, because that lady didn't care about me going back to prison. Wendy, she didn't care about anything, and Bob, you know, he was a convict and been to prison multiple times, and he didn't care either. But I mean, he would help me through something. Yeah, like I punch a guy in the eye for calling me a bitch down the street. He was like, it didn't happen on property, so I don't want to hear about it. Shit like that. So. You know, and then I got in the telemarketing game.
Oh, shout out to the telemarketers.
You know, and they were like, hey, go work at this place down the street. So I started working down there. I started working down there, and I started
figuring. He was a cool piece, too.
Yeah, I was good at it.
Yeah.
I was good at it, and I was making money, and I never made money. And everything they tell you, you know, we do this to be legit, and we do that, and it's a big spot, dude. You walk in there, and there's a bunch of hot girls in there, and all this stuff, and. Yeah, dude, there's like 150 desks in there, like straight boiler room, but, you know, and I'm working there, and I'm going to meetings, and I'm kind of getting, you know, this itch again, getting this itch. I'm tired of working, I'm tired of my parole officer, I'm tired of the Solutions, I'm tired of that lady always yelling at me saying she's going to kick me out and I'm going to go back to prison if I don't work the steps, and, I was talking to my boss, and of course she's easy on the eyes, dude. You know, she's a rockabilly, you know, and she's super hot, and I was just telling her, you know, and I used to think that back then, you know, young and whatever, and that lady actually became one of my best friends in the world, and I was telling her, I was like, this isn't for me, like this sober thing, like I'm not built for this, and she's like, you need to work the steps and call your sponsor, and I was like, he stopped answering the phone. You know, because why? I'm not willing.
Yeah.
And she writes her husband's number down, and she slides it to me, and she says, call him. he'll sponsor you. And I was like, he doesn't even know me. And she's like, that's what we do.
That's
You
right.
know, and this dude pulls up, dude, we meet up at a Starbucks, and he rides up on his Harley, and he's slung down like me, and he talks about doing time like me. You know, he talks about using women the way I used women, and he used toilet water and a spoon so he could get high because there was no running water in the house, and I was like, this dude's perfect, and he had 5 years sober.
He's telling my story.
You know,
Yeah.
he works at CVI, he's got an education, you know, like, and dude, it was, we just sat down, and he started breaking down the steps for me. And then when it got to God, I shut down. Like, I tried to start riots with Christians in prison. What do you mean you're handing out Bibles at the gate? Like, you guys need your heads caved in, right?
Yeah. How dare you?
And he was like, do you believe in God? And I was like, no. And he was like, do you believe I believe in God? And I was like, you can believe in whatever you want, you know? And he goes, well, you could borrow my God.
Ooh.
And it was a weird concept, like, what do you mean borrow your God? But he was like, you remember when you told me you were willing to do whatever it takes to stay sober when we first sat down? He's like, here's what I want you to do. And this is like a turning point in my life where I was willing to try something someone else's way because my way doesn't work, dude. He was like, I want you to put your wallet underneath your bed at night, and while you're down there, I want you to say thank you for being sober. And then when you get up in the morning, I guarantee you're not going to leave that halfway house without your wallet. You're going to get back down there and say, please help me stay sober. And it was an event. Keith Roy, he's in the shower. I got the door closed. I got the blinds shut. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I get down on my knees, dude, and you know, like my pride and ego was like everything in me. Like, I'd rather die standing than live on my knees. Is the, you know, that's the term. Mm-hmm. And I get down on my knees and I said, God, please help me stay sober today. That's all I said. And it wasn't like some revelation happened or anything like that. What happened was I stood up and Keith's standing there, and he's got his towel on and fucking he's smiling at me, and he's got a tear in his eye, and I was like, what? And he was like, you just might stay sober. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't understand that. Because at 5.5 months sober, my best friend decided to shoot heroin and cocaine one last time, and he died of an overdose. That same dude that told me that same dude I used to take girls out with, that I used to go bowling with, that I would go to clubs with, do whatever with, I kept doing that, and at some point he stopped doing that. And I stayed sober, and my sobriety date is 5/13/09.
Big shout out to that. 5/13/09.
You know, that's when I got so, you know, and this past October 21st, which was just a couple weeks ago, is the anniversary of him dying. And you know, I've had some amazing things happen being sober, and I've had some shitty things happen. You know, I sponsored as many dudes as I could. That first year of sobriety was amazing. Like, I didn't know how to do anything else except for AA, CA, NA, you know, whatever it was, dude. Yeah, like I had service commitments everywhere. I'm doing 10 to 12 meetings a week, sponsoring 10 to 15 guys at a time. All my weekends were filled with doing fist steps with guys, like, and because I didn't know how to live, right? I'd go to work, and I'll tell you this, I did telemarketing because that's what I did for work, but what I did for my life was AA. And I think this is the part that saved my life, or saved me through all the things that I've done wrong in my sobriety, is that I've always sponsored guys. I've always kept service commitments. I had an H&I commitment at Community Bridges on Van Buren, which is, you know, like the bottom of the barrel detox for 5 years every Wednesday night. Like, I didn't miss that meeting. Unless I was out of state, I didn't miss that meeting. And, you know, I got
old lark.
You know, I had a kid, I got married, you know, I got a daughter that I watched grow up in prison, I have a relationship with, you know, and all this stuff, and I keep doing this, and I'm doing the telemarketing thing, and we have some problems. You know, we have some problems. We get hit by the AG.
That's,
you know,
good.
they shut it down. I was a part owner. They shut the bank accounts down and everything. We signed over.
Account is closed.
You know, yeah, we sign over a bunch of money to them. They make me sign a little paper saying I would never do it again. You know, if you violate that paper, it's a misdemeanor. I mean, you pee on the sidewalk, it's a misdemeanor, just to let you know, and probably an indecent exposure charge. So you get a felony out of that. But you know, so. You know, I lived in the gray area of my life, even in sobriety, and somewhere, dude, I lost like that connection with God, and I done a whole bunch of dirtbag stuff, and you know, and now now I'm at home. I have enough money to sit for a little while, and I don't know what I'm doing. I'm running out of money. I'm getting down to the last of my money, and I'm with one of my friends, and you know, he pulls up in his Benz, and we're at the gym, and at 5:30 in the morning, and we're talking, and he hands me like $5,000, and he was like, "Here, go pay your bills." And I still don't know what I'm gonna do, cause I know how to shoot dope and hit people over the head, and I know how to sell air to anybody, and but I don't know how to live life on life's terms all the way, and so he offers me a gig doing some security work to help him. Then it turns into more. Then you know, it wasn't long later, like a bunch of rooms get raided and we shut everything down. Dude, I go and get my CDL. I was like, I'm gonna be a truck driver.
Yeah. Okay, so
You know, I have an attorney. I have an attorney. Yeah, that's what I do. The problem is, you put a bag of shit in a box, and and when you open it up, it's still a bag of shit, right? That's when I left California. That's the way it was. When I went driving the truck, like, I'm not sponsoring guys like I was. I'm only going to meetings when I'm in town, like once a month. You know, and and I get, in 2017, I get indicted for stuff that happened in 2014 from the feds. I got a federal money laundering case out of St. Louis, Missouri. And, you know, I had to turn myself in. It was sit in a cell a day. I'm not, I'm 8 years sober when I get indicted, you know, and...
So prison sentence.
Yeah, and it was going through a lot, and I fought it for a year and a half, and it was either sign this 3 years in prison or go to trial and get 20. And you know, 3 sounds a whole lot better than 20.
It sounds a hell of a lot better.
You know, I'm restless, irritable, and discontent. Dude, I thought about becoming a Mexican again.
Yeah.
You know, I told my wife, she's like, "We'll be here when you get out."
I'll start a satellite phone office from Mexico. Always needed bilingual. There's an untapped market.
Yeah, like there's something broken up here in my devious mind.
We had that
Yeah.
I know a couple people that did it and actually got away with it. So, you know, I sucked it up. Like, it's cleaning up the wreckage. Even in sobriety, I have to clean up the wreckage. So I drove myself to Terminal Island, California, which is in San Pedro. It's right on the water. It's the original Club Fed. Like, Al Capone did time there, one of the oldest prisons in the country. And my wife's crying outside the fence when I'm walking in there, and she hands me like all her tips from work because she cuts hair, and she hands me like $250 because I gave her everything. I said, sell everything, do whatever you got to do to pay the bills. Like, all this is yours. And I walk in there, dude, and I wasn't that convict I was when I got out in 2009. I didn't want to take advantage of people anymore, but of course, you know, I try to fit in, and, you know, I'm a tough guy, and I got some political ink tattooed on me, and you know, like, and I'm kind of hot-headed. Like, I don't keep my hands to myself all the time, even when I'm sober. I'm sorry,
You're
but
hurt too.
yeah, well, no, that was in there. There's a whole story about that too, but you know, I go in there, and me and my wife have problems, and I'm having problems fitting in, and I'm trying to do AA, and my wife tells me that she cheated on me, and I didn't have the conversation with her about, like, because she said she would wait for me, and I believed her.
Yeah.
And which is, dude, people get lonely, or I left her in a bad situation. She had big boy bills, like there's a house and a car payment, and this didn't come from telemarketing or anything like that, but you know, the 2 dogs and the 2 kids, and she didn't know how to cope with life that I helped her build, and I'm not there. And she tells me this, dude, and I get into a fight with God.
Yeah.
Me and God had a big fight, dude, and I told God I hated him for like 20 minutes in my head. I can't sleep, dude. All I could do was work out, you know, do my little job, dude, and so when I told this story at Knuckleheads, you know, and one of the guys shared, and he was like, at least when things were bad, you still talked to God, even if you told him you hated him. So that's ingrained in me, to talk to God even when I'm mad at God.
That's the program.
And my concept of God has changed over the years. You know, it went from, like, you know, good orderly direction from a group of drunks, to like karma, to like, okay, it's this entity out there I can't really put a face on. Like, I did this whole thing with my sponsor, And I've had the sponsor I have now, I've had for like almost 12 years. And we did this a long time ago, a best friends list. You know, he's like, write down everything, every characteristic you're looking for in a best friend if you can make your own best friend.
Yeah.
And then the next time we were doing step 2, and he was like, okay, what are you looking for in God? And I was like, I don't know. He's like, pull out your list, and I read it, and it's everything I'm looking for in God.
There it is.
Right? And I want God to be my best friend. So in there, I'm miserable. I'm trying to sponsor guys. You know, I have a grand sponsor that's got 47 years sober, and shout out Larry, because that man's amazing. He writes convicts like crazy that are trying to be sober in prison. Dude, he did 3 terms in prison. He's been to 7 mental institutions, and he still writes convicts. He still sponsors dudes, and he's dying of COPD and needing a lung transplant. And he's writing me every week. You know, we're writing back and forth, and he's telling me, you're in there with a bunch of sick motherfuckers, and you're a sick motherfucker, so you need to sponsor as many of those dudes as you can. And I tried to do that.
Facts.
And I got a few guys through the steps, and my concept of God had to change, or else I was going to die. And I seen these dudes, and they were sitting around this table, and they would pray every day while I was at work sweeping up on the yard, and they would ask me to come over there with them. And there were some dudes, you know, they were convicts, but they weren't trying to do the whole thing, take advantage of people and stuff like that. And they were Christian dudes, and I was always fearful of that kind of stuff. And because that Christian God, when I was a kid, let me down.
Yeah.
And years later, I still remembered that, and you know, and then one day I was just so miserable that I sat with these guys and they prayed. And then it was a week goes by, and I just sit there and they pray. And then one day I start praying with them, and then one day a dude was like, hey, why don't you come to church with me? And I was like, that's not my thing.
Yeah, it's not my jam.
But he was like, no, it's good. They got a band. You get out of the house, you know, blah, blah, blah. And
Music?
And they're in there happy, and I go in there, dude, just to check it out, and he hands me a Bible. And he was like, here, you should read this. And I was like, I don't know what to read in there. He's like, read the Gospels. And I was like, I don't even know what that is. And he tells me.
Yeah.
So I start reading it, and I'm asking questions, dude, because it's knowledge, dude. You know, like
And
in
this
my
is at
mind.
9 years sober.
Yeah, this is at 9 years sober. I'm in there reading, and to me, it's a history book, right? Because if you can't get anything out of it, if you're not a Christian, it doesn't matter. If you're Jehovah's Witness, if you're, you know, Muslim, I don't care what your conception of God is. If it's something made up that works for you, you have to have some higher power. I just spiritually plateaued, and I wanted to kill myself at 9 years sober, and I had to redevelop what I thought God was. And so I went through this whole thing, and I had a spiritual experience in that chapel, not that day, but a couple months later, after reading the Bible every day and stuff like that, and it helped me grow, and then I ended up going, you know, and then, you know, staying close to God and doing God's work. What God does is I'm far away. I haven't seen my kids in 6 months. You know, like the wife's definitely divorcing me, and then they say, hey, you're going to camp, and I was like, dude, I don't even know how I'm going to camp. Like I you know, my door card says, do not play well with others, right?
Yeah.
And I go to this camp in Tucson, Arizona, and I run into my co-defendant, who's one of my best friends, and I get to be there for him because he's mad at God too. And I told him this is the way, and I kept pushing him, and I got AA in there, and I got volunteers.
By mistake.
Yeah, and I got volunteers, you know, to come in from AA again. Like, I'm emailing everybody I know in the program. Do we know anybody in Tucson? Like, here's the deal. I'm in Tucson. I got one of my best friends that I did time with in the state, who is not in the program, who's not any of that, dude. He's just my homeboy. Would bring my son once a month to see me, no matter what. And then COVID hits right before I get out. Dude, I have to go spend 2 weeks in the hole.
Right before you get out, I got released from the hole.
Yeah.
Released from the hole, Ron? No.
I had to go quarantine for 2 weeks because they didn't even have testing for it yet.
One last time in the hole.
And then I go to this federal halfway house, dude, and I already got a car waiting. You know, I already have I got clothes and all this stuff, and you know, and the kids were there and stuff like that, and I go to this federal halfway house, and they were like, hey, and all I could think about is, like, I talked to people, and they were like, they're doing meetings on Zoom, and I was like, oh, I can't video chat in here, so, you know, I can't go to AA meetings, they don't have nobody coming in, it's COVID, so I'm going on Zoom, and I'm like, in the window upstairs, dude, watching for I'm my own point man, and I'm speaking at meetings all over the valley. And speaking for Eric Bevanetto in California, for a CA meeting like every week and doing meetings with these guys because I can't get out of the house. Hey, all I could do is go to work and come back. And I need this fellowship and I need this relationship. And I need this relationship with God for that nearness. And I get out and I go on home confinement with the ankle bracelet for 3 months, dude, and still doing the same thing, dude. In the minute, dude, I get that ankle bracelet off, dude. I go to an AA cigar shop where I know that people from AA hang out. And I go and I sit down there with the owner, who's in recovery, who's 18 years sober, he's 20 years sober now. And we're smoking a cigar, and he was like, hey, little brother, keep your head down, dude, and stay right in the middle. He was like, that's what you need to do right now, dude. And I followed that.
That's
and
advice you
yeah, going to meetings, dude, and I was just picking up guys. Taking them through the steps, dude, doing the same thing, speaking all over, and, reconnected with Ron. And, me and Ron's having conversations, and I'm setting boundaries in my life with women, not taking things too far, just going like, not being a dirtbag, dude, keeping this closeness with God, dude, and just driving this dump truck. I owe all this money, dude. I have a big restitution.
How much, Scott?
9.9 is what it started with.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's at right now. But, I talked to Ron, and, and then Ron calls me back, and he goes, you're different. And I'm happy, and I don't care about money, and my relationships in my life are the most important things in my life. The relationship with the woman, or the relationship with the kids, or the relationship with the people that are sitting right next to me, the relationship with my mom, with my brother, like, those are more important to me than all the money in the world, right? I don't care that I drive a 2005 Camry with 200,000 miles on it, right? And Ron calls me, and he was like, hey, I would be an honor if you sponsored me. And I was like, absolutely. Yeah. And then like anybody else, we build this relationship past the things that he knew from before to get a better understanding of what we're looking for in our higher power and what we're looking for in life and the direction we need to go.
Just briefly, real quick, after I remember when I asked you to be my sponsor, and then we went to that CA convention where Jason spoke. That day prior, I remember I had just asked you recently, me and you were out there smoking cigars, and then went to the pool party, and you brought your son. Mm-hmm. We were in the pool throwing the ball around, getting ready, waiting for you to come. And I'll never forget how little Scotty looked at you. And I knew that I made the right decision asking Scott, because he was a different person. This little boy looked at his father, and I was just like, yeah, this is what it's all about.
Yeah, dude, it's that. Dude, my youngest daughter, I watched grow up in pictures, and I spent half her life in prison. Dude, she's 25 now, and we talk every day. I talk to my son every day. Like he doesn't want for anything. Whatever, me and my ex-wife go through, we still have a friendship to where we can talk about my son and so that he's taken care of. And yeah, I do stupid shit and we get angry and just the relationships with the people in my life, dude, are so important. But the best thing is my relationship with God. That relationship that I have with God is, I talk to God like he's my best friend some days. And when I have problems, and I was going through something, I'm going through something today, and I've been going through something with some people, and it's just, my sponsor's like, dude, talk to God about it before you make any decisions. Keep talking. I seen him last night, and he was like, did you talk to God? Good, do it again tonight, and do it tomorrow too. You know what I'm saying about that thing? Yeah, dude, it's like, my sponsor's got 20 years sober, and he's a junkie like me, and and he's, I liked how he held himself like a business owner, family man, kids, stuff like that. And so, and this guy, this guy is like, I don't just sponsor guys, dude, I sponsor friends. And they're friends. After a while, we build this relationship, and I love them, and I would do anything for them. And yeah, when they get mad at people, I get mad at them too. Yeah, fuck that motherfucker, and whatever. Start deleting people off Facebook and shit because of their fucking resentment.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, it's like, that brotherhood.
It's a protector.
That brotherhood is that. Yeah, I want to protect you, and I want to protect the people in my life too. But I started this new job, and 3 months ago, and it's a great opportunity for me in a different field than what I'm doing, and I'm starting to make good money, and I'm learning how to run equipment. And because I have a CDL, it got me in the door, and it's trying because I'm out of town Monday through Friday, and but I mean, yesterday I had time, and before the meeting last night I did a fist step with a guy. Like, here, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
You're meeting me. It's been too long. You've been sitting on this, and I've been trying to get you to do it. We're doing this tomorrow night before the meeting. And he's like, okay, or me and Ron will meet up and we'll go have a steak and go to a meeting, or it's just different things. If I don't hear from a guy, I'll call him, and because I care about what happens, it's not just about calling me, and one of my sponsees is like, oh, they need to call me for 5 days straight, and I was like, can you do that with your sponsor? Because you ain't called me for 5 days straight. You need to be a little bit easier on that, dude. Those dudes are scared. Like, you got cancer, and you're gonna rub that off on me. That's how they think when they come in the room. Like, hey, I'll meet a dude, and I'll give him my number, and I'll get his too, and I'll call him the next day and be like, hey, bro, I really had a good conversation with you. How's your day going? And the next thing you know, dude, we're sitting down doing step work. The next thing you know, dude, I see him with 2, 5, 7 years sober, and I want to see people win. That's the biggest thing, dude. Like, yeah, it's a selfish program, and I know I'm going to stay sober if I sponsor guys, but dude, that satisfaction of seeing that guy get a job, get his kids back, be part of their life, be a productive member, of society, get their rights back, just different things, and they're winning, that's a miracle.
And that's what it's all about, man. Scott, dude, wow. I mean, the message, dude, the story, just everything that you've been through from the trauma. I mean, there's just so much substance in your message that gives you the ability to have such an impactful, just, dude, it was powerful, bro. That's all I can say, dude. And,
Thanks so much for coming, Scott.
And thank you for being on the show today. And for all of our listeners out there, man, continue to follow us, Powerless to Powerful. You can find us everywhere. Continue to subscribe and like and share, because this message needs to be heard. So, man, get this one out there. Continue to do what you do. We're super grateful for all of our followers, and continue to follow the show. Scott, it is a pleasure having you here today, man. So thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Woo! That's a two-parter.
It went that long?
Yeah.
Fuck. Got all kinds of shit.